i-netradio.com. i-netradio.com. Добрый день, it's Добрый Жалovat. This is Springtime in Moscow with your hosts James Tuthill and Steven Stimson. We've got some Russian with a little American, and we're serious with a little humor. So Jim, what's going on in the world today?
Thank you, Steve, for the nice introduction. I'm Jim Tuthill, and this is Springtime in Moscow. Springtime in Moscow is now on YouTube. We're on i-netradio.com 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we are also on powertalk.com, pwrtalk.com, where we are on the air 3 shows a day. And we are also the feature show every Friday evening from 8 to 10 p.m. Today, we have our great guest, Jake Danishevsky, from New Jersey, and we are going to be talking about America, Russia, the world, scandals, issues, and some hot topics in even this morning's news. Jake, how are you?
Hi, how you doing, Jim? Nice
Good.
to be here.
Jake, you told me it's a little humid in New Jersey today, and I have some good news for you, for me, and for all people living in America, and maybe this will cheer you up in spite of the humidity, okay?
Okay.
We're going to go to this piece of news, and then we're going to compare it to its counterpart in Russia, because the New York Times publishes a supplement about once a month from Russia Beyond the Headlines. And they had a very similar article in Russia Beyond the Headlines in terms of what's happening here in the United States. At any rate, I know that you are going to be glad to hear this, okay?
Okay.
In spite of all the scandals, Benghazi and the IRS and the journalistic investigation, and I don't know, I think, there's even more scandals I think I saw on the news today. Mr. Obama's Gallup approval rating is held steady at 49%. CNN has him at 53%, and he's even moved up a little bit in the CNN poll. I'm happy to say that consumer confidence is at or near the highest level it's been in 4 years. The economic mood in the country is pretty good. We have a record-breaking stock market during the time that Mr. Obama has been president. We have a rebound in housing prices from the 2005-2006 period. And while Mr. Obama has been president, the housing market has rebounded. And also, we have a much better job picture than we did 4 years ago. It says that people are happy. A majority of people are happy with Mr. Obama's overall performance, and a majority are viewing him favorably. And this is all in spite of Benghazi, the targeting of conservative groups by the Internal Revenue Service, and the issuing of subpoenas for journalist telephone records regarding leaks on national security. So I couldn't be happier, Jake, and I know you couldn't be happier that Mr. Obama is doing well in the polls.
You know what? I would be happy if America was doing well, but the problem is these polls are taken from where? CNN and New York Times?
No, Gallup. No, not New York Times. Gallup and CNN.
Okay, Gallup and CNN. First of all, remember we talked a little bit about polling, and I mentioned to you that I actually wrote an article on polling before the election.
Yes.
Most of the polls now, I mean, it doesn't matter which poll you take. Most of the polls, it depends how you do the sampling. And the sampling in most of the polls are done on about what, like 1,000 people. So you take 1,000 people, and the sampling is usually left-leaning. I don't know why it is so. Example, I'll give you an example. Reagan was 38% in the polls before the election of 1980. okay?
Yes.
And Reagan won by a landslide twice. So that shows you what those polls really mean. And you yourself said that Gallup poll is not exactly a credible poll. None of the polls are credible because it depends on the sampling. So if you want to talk about polls and 1,000 people as opposed to 300 million people, I guess, in America, I mean, those polls mean absolutely nothing. I'm sorry to say that. Now, can I say something about the economy?
Jake, I love to hear what you have to say.
I'm going to ask you a question, Jim.
Oh, that's fine. I'm ready.
I know you are. You always are. Let me ask you a question. Can you give me a one single reason why economy or anything would be better during Obama presidency? What has Obama directly done to improve anything in America as far as economy, job market, or anything? Please tell me at least one reason, and I'll agree with you if you give me a valid enough reason.
Well, let's say that even though I guess he's not supposed to, let's say that he can exert some influence over the Federal Reserve System or over Mr. Bernanke. What they have done, they've done a couple of things. They've kept the discount rate near 1%. Number two, they've kept the rate of inflation down. And number three, and this is the most important, they have gone out and they have waded neck deep into the bond market. And they have bought tons and tons of bonds. And as a result, the interest rates on bonds have gone down. As you know, as the price of a bond goes up, the interest rate goes down.
Okay.
It's interesting.
Okay.
So what they have done is a lot of commentators will tell you this. I hate to use this word, but they have artificially inflated the stock market because, Jake, if you can only get 1% or 2% or maybe 3% on a bond, you have to look elsewhere in order to make a return on capital.
Okay.
So they go into the stock market, and all economics, in my humble opinion, comes down to supply and demand. And there's more demand because people are getting out of bonds and they're going into stocks.
Okay.
So that has helped the stock market. Now, number two, we have this matter of the housing industry.
Okay.
And as you know, and I don't know if I agree with this or not, because I'll tell you one thing. There were people who could afford to pay their mortgages. They could afford to pay the monthly payments. Mm-hmm. And eventually, the price of their houses, it may not never get back to 2004 for a while, but it'll probably get back to 80% of that. They just weren't willing to wait, and they saw a window of opportunity. So they took advantage of these government programs to either reduce the principal, modify the terminal loan, or modify the interest rate. And they did that sort of as a strategy or sort of as a game. They took advantage of government programs. But the government programs have apparently done something to stabilize the housing market. Lastly, in this poll, they talked about jobs. It seems, and I really would have to agree with you on this one, that even though jobs have been created, most of those jobs are what I would consider rather lousy jobs. You know, it's funny, Jake. Every time I go into a nice breakfast place or a nice lunch place, not a diner or something, but a nice place, the waiter and the waitress always strikes me. And I say to them, what are you doing here? And they say, oh, I have a degree. Some of them have degrees in biology. The lady that did my business cards at Staples not only had a degree in biology from the University of Central Florida, she was cum laude, okay? Mm-hmm. And she's sitting over there doing business cards. What's she getting paid? I don't know, $8, $9 an hour, I would imagine. And the companies are not hiring, that we know, and they're not creating any good jobs, that we know, and they are
skilled jobs.
Yeah, and they are making record profits. So really, what incentive is there for them to go out and create jobs or create high-paying jobs? They're making a fortune to begin with. Okay. So whether Mr. Obama has had an effect on jobs, housing, or the stock market, personally, I'll tell you two things. He personally and the levers that he can pull, to some degree,
Okay.
But that's why I never blamed Mr. Bush when the housing market exploded. I never blamed him when the stock market went down. And I certainly never blamed any president for gas prices.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're being fair. You're being fair, and I
Yeah.
agree, because uh, here's how I look at it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think
No,
can
I'm
I
finished.
can,
I'm finished.
can I chime in on what you said?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, we talked about Reagan, and even though you personally do not like Reagan, and I absolutely admire Reagan as a man, as a president, as a human being, he has done a lot for this country. But I will give you one thing. I will give you one thing. I do respect the fact that you do not take sides on Bush, Obama in certain things. And here's why. And I agree with you on one thing. Government does not create jobs. Government does not create jobs in the private sector. What government does, government creates environment conducive for companies to create jobs. So if you have a government that says, or Obama says, we created jobs, that's a lie. If Bush would say we create jobs, that's a lie, because government can only create an environment, not over-regulated environment for capitalistic system to work. We haven't had capitalistic system work in America for many, many years. Now, can I reflect on some of the things you said?
Sure.
Okay, stock market. First of all, you said they bought bonds and the government did a few things to boost the stock market. Once again, government does not produce, government does not have its own money. So every time it boosts anything, it uses taxpayers' money. Now, if you take a dollar, you put it into the system, and you get a return on that dollar. That return is never a full dollar because some of it went into agencies that actually did something to boost economy, job market, or anything that they claim that they boosted. So now basically you diluted a dollar, not to mention that they printed money to create that dollar. So they diluted that dollar almost twice or three times. Housing market. Even though you say you don't blame Bush for housing market, I agree with you because it didn't start during Bush. If you remember, and I'm not blaming Clinton fully for this, but during Clinton administration, whoever made the decision to encourage people and banks to give loans to people that cannot afford their houses. So they said they said we encourage, we actually gonna find the banks if they do not give out those loans. So they almost like turned the bank's arm upside down in order to go ahead and do that. It fired back. It fired back in a major way because you had people, for example, when I went to buy my house in the late 90s, the first thing that I wanted to do is to buy it as the first time buyer. Well, as a first time buyer, I wouldn't be able to afford the house. I wouldn't be able to afford the mortgage. But since I was a first time buyer, I had to be within certain brackets that I didn't fit because I was making more money than the first time buyer should be making. So in reality, there is no such thing as a first time buyer. So the market does not exist. They create a market for people who cannot afford the house, but still should go ahead and buy it. And the last thing is once again jobs. And you said the most important thing. I agree with you 100%. You have unskilled jobs for skilled workers. You basically have underemployment. For example, I love what I'm doing on weekends. I drive different limos. I love driving. I'm a big kid. But it's still an underemployment because before I was able to make more money with one job than I do now with two jobs. And that's underemployment. Okay? So it's not job creation. I mean, if I'm not looking for a job and the percentages of job unemployment went down, that's because a lot of people gave up and just stopped looking for a job. So, I mean, in reality, government, any government, does not create anything. They should be just creating environment conducive for companies and economy to boost, and they haven't done that. And I agree with you on the gas prices. Gas prices are only influenced by how overregulated the businesses. And we already talked about it. And I can prove to you because I put up the numbers on one of our interviews, and Obama approved twice as less as Clinton and about 3 or 4 times as less as Bush on the drilling permits on public lands. So the gas prices, in a way, can be influenced by a president if they wanted to.
Okay, Jake,
Okay?
I'm just going to say this, and then we're going to move to the similarity, or I don't know if it's a similarity in Russia. Okay?
Okay,
And
but
I'm going
then,
to let you talk about that.
will we have time to talk about some of the current scandal things?
Yes, we're going
Yes,
to talk. We're going to talk about everything.
I have
Okay.
a question for you since you're an attorney, and I have a really valid question because I do not personally know the full answer.
Ask away. Yesterday, 5 people called me for legal advice. I did a show at 9:15. When I went to bed at 11:30 last night, I felt like I had been run over by a truck. So ask away. Ask away.
I'll ask. You know what? Let's finish this piece of segment, and then I have a question for you. I'm not going to forget because it's a very good question.
I will just tell you a few facts, some statistics. Yes, the program to throw money at people without even verifying their income, without even having them produce an income tax return, did start in the Clinton administration. But factually, statistically, only 10% of those unverified loans were given in the Clinton administration.
Okay.
The rest of them were given in the Bush administration, and there's a reason for all this, Jake.
Okay.
Politicians love to give people money. Okay.
Well, you buy votes. I mean, I understand.
Yes.
Why. I mean, it's listen. It's dirty on both sides.
Number two.
No.
Number two, I've left out one thing about the stock market.
I wanted to. Okay, go ahead.
One of the real big reasons that the stock market has gone up is that profits and earnings have gone up tremendously. So the earnings upon which stock prices are based, of course, have gotten a lot higher. Okay. Number 3, you talk about printing money. You better believe it. The governments love to print money because they love to give money to people. Okay. And as to jobs, it's a very, very sad situation. I told you before that lady at MIT said that if we had skilled workers, there are enough jobs to match people with skills. Unfortunately, we don't have that many skilled workers to reduce the unemployment rate. She said this 2 years ago to 6.5%. So I don't know whose fault it is, whether people don't get the skills, whether they're not offered the skills, whether the jobs are available. I don't have the slightest idea.
That's statistic. I'm sorry. I don't mean to go over again.
Yeah.
That statistic is not correct because we have skilled workers. We don't have enough skilled jobs.
Okay, you may be right. I don't know.
No, I'll give you an example. When I graduated, and the market was actually booming. When I graduated in '89, there was problems with some of the careers, and I got a job actually out of college. I wanted to get a job in my field, which is MIS, Management Information Systems. I got a job because I wanted to try it with an insurance company, and the job wasn't in Management Information Systems; it was sales. And I wanted to try it because I always wondered how I would do in sales because I like people, I like to talk, and I figured maybe I'll do well. I went out to lunch with a couple of my bosses, and guess who I saw as my waiter? One of my college friends, well, not exactly a friend, an acquaintance, and he was an architectural major. He was a skilled worker, but there was not enough architecture jobs in New Jersey at the time. Okay.
Yes.
So I mean, and we always have college graduates that go for some skill, and at that time, architecture was just not the skill that companies were able to hire enough people. I mean, how many architects do you need per company? And there was, I mean, I would tell you that in my college, maybe 20% of people were actual architecture major.
Okay.
It's so I mean, you have a lot of skilled people. I mean, you need to let the market be able to produce jobs. And just to compare something, and just to tell you how fair I am, and it's going to make you feel better. I did not, as soon as Bush said that they're going to stimulate the market, I did not agree with Bush. Now, when Obama said it twice, Of course, I did not agree with Bush already. Why would I agree with Obama on the same problem? Because what they did, they took a band-aid and put it on a gushing wound. What they did is basically they took taxpayers' money and they threw at the problem that probably didn't exist yet. They said that we're going to have a problem later. How about waiting and letting those companies restructure before we take taxpayers' money and throw at the problem without letting the companies fix themselves first?
Okay.
So I say government never fixes the problem. It it encourages the problem to be bigger. So I say the less the government gets involved, probably better. So that's why when you said that the government under Obama is popular and they did this, and this, they didn't do anything. They took taxpayers' money and they basically watered down some things and made the appearance almost like perception of reality, but in reality, just prolonging the agony of a bad decision. We're
Well,
going to see.
I think that government can stimulate the economy.
I, I don't think so. I mean,
Okay. Well,
I don't think so because the government basically it's almost like you said it yourself. It's artificial, and when it's artificial, eventually it bites you in.
well, I think I can give you a classic example. The Great Depression in the 30s and then World War II came along and government spending took us out of the depression. It was all
Okay,
government spending, all government
government
money.
spending, but then we paid for it probably years later because even though directly maybe we didn't see it, but when the government takes taxpayers' money and boosts any economy, eventually that economy has to produce something, and if it doesn't produce, where does the government get the
Okay.
money back?
Well, it did take us out of the depression. But
Okay,
anyway,
all
I'm going
right,
to go on to the
I'll give you.
next
Okay,
subject. I have to keep moving here.
okay, let's keep moving because I
Okay,
have another.
As a liberal Democrat, I'm happy that in spite of the scandals, Mr. Obama is doing well in the polls, or fairly well. Now, I have some bad news, maybe for you. You
Okay,
come from the former Soviet Union. I know that you come from the Ukraine,
okay,
and Ukraine and Russia are somewhat different.
okay,
But there's a problem in the polls. The Levada Center says that the average Russian person is becoming increasingly intolerant of wealth among state officials. Ordinary people do not consider a life of luxury for public servants to be appropriate. Okay?
okay.
And they make a connection between wealthy holders of government jobs and corruption. Only 13% of Russians polled felt that it was normal for a state official or a Duma deputy to be rich. The average man in the street is not happy with his representatives. He's not happy with his representatives making money while they're serving the government, and they're not happy with their state representatives being rich. So this is a negative poll for politicians in Russia. Does that depress you?
Why would that depress me in Russia? I'm an American.
All
I mean,
right.
I listen, James. I mean, I left that country for a reason. Some people come here and they want to make changes in America that are similar to what they left behind. And it's not just Russians. I mean, you see other groups, Asians, Hispanics. They want to make changes in America that basically will turn America somewhat close to what they left. I couldn't care less if you in Ukraine everybody stands on the head today. I mean, I honestly can tell you that I love that country and I'm an American. Now, can I just say something? I mean, I'm not happy about politicians. Look, I better live in capitalism, but when somebody makes money on the taxpayers' money and then preaches to the rest of us that we have to be our brother's keeper, equal and fair share, uh, you have Obama, whose net worth before he became a president was less than $1 million. He bought 2 years ago, he bought a Hawaiian mansion for anywhere between 35 to $40 million. And his net worth right now is over $10 million. Now, you tell me, Mr. Equal and Fair, all of the sudden, his net worth, I would say maybe went more than 10 times over, and he had not had a job that pays $1 million a year. So you tell me, is that equal and fair according to what Obama is preaching to the rest of us? That bothers me more.
Well, can I just ask you a question then? So it doesn't surprise you that the average man on the street in Russia is very unhappy that state officials are getting rich.
It doesn't. Well, it doesn't surprise me because in Russia they have other problems. They have problems that there is no middle class. Absolutely no middle class.
And apparently you're not too thrilled about public officials anywhere making money while they're serving government.
Well, you know what? If public official had no job, no business, no qualifications, and no other way to make money, and the only way they made money is in government. Wait, let me finish. But they preach to the rest of us that we should all live by our own means and we should all not worry about money or finances, but worry about our brother's keeper. I mean, yes, it bothers me that a man preaches socialism. Take care of your brother, take care of your neighbor, take care of everybody. In the meantime, he pays less taxes than the average American. He donates less than the average American, and yet his net worth went up ridiculously. I mean, even if he had a job in the regular market, he would not be able to accumulate in 4 years this much net worth, making, let's say, 400,000 a year even. He would not be able to.
We're going to turn to a scandal, a new scandal. On the front page of the New York Times today. Now, you are a free market guy. You're a capitalist guy. You're a non-government intervention guy. You're probably for reducing taxes, for shrinking the size of government and everything else. Well,
absolutely.
The Senate is investigating a company called Apple, and I want to get your opinion on this. Apple employs 4% of its global workforce in Ireland, primarily Dublin, Ireland.
Okay.
What happens is, in the United States, Apple recorded 65% of its worldwide income, $26 billion in income. And by going over to Ireland, they were able to reduce their tax rate to very, very little, even though most of their work is done in the U.S., they shifted it over to Ireland. Okay? 4% of the workforce is in Ireland, and they're claiming, 65% of their income was made there. It doesn't seem logical. It doesn't seem the right thing to do. What is your take? Do you think that American corporations should be able to really set up offshore operations or fraudulently set up offshore operations, either one, to avoid United States taxes? What do you think?
Well, first of all, fraudulently, absolutely not. And this is all done legally. Apple is a corporation. They're free to do business however they choose to, which is good. The bad thing is that if they had incentives, I mean, lower taxes, lower regulations to produce here. I heard a year ago, by the way, Steve Jobs was ultra liberal Obama supporter. So let's put that on the table. But even there was a brilliant man. He was a very free enterprise driven man. And Steve Jobs took most of his company, even while he was alive, he took most of his companies overseas because he, just like any other businessman, saw that over-regulations and taxes are killing a lot of his profit. Now, Apple even a year ago said they're going to bring one of their biggest products, and I don't remember which product because when I listened, they didn't specify which one. They're going to bring one of their biggest products, one of their biggest money makers, into America to be produced, manufactured, and everything been done in America. I don't know if they have done that, but should the company exercise, company can do whatever they want. And I heard a lot of economists, not politicians, not anybody, a lot of economists, specialists say one thing: if you punish the companies for doing business overseas, they'll just find a way to do business differently overseas. If you give incentives to companies to bring business back, you're going to have companies come back to America. And we have not given any incentives to companies like Apple or any other company that left the American market to produce there but sell their product here. And we haven't given them any incentives. Lower taxes on the businesses that do business in America, that bring business back to America. And I guarantee you, we're going to have a lot of jobs come back.
So if I understand this, and it came out yesterday in the Senate, if a company like Apple does 4% of its business in Ireland, yet claims 65% of its profits in Ireland, and that's, I guess, legal under the tax code, you don't have a problem with that.
I mean, well, I have a problem as far as I'm an American, but do I have a problem with the company that's a free enterprise to do business wherever they think is best and legally? No, I don't have a problem. Why should I have a problem?
Okay, I just ask, that's all. I just throw out the questions.
Yeah, no, I didn't hear about that because I didn't read about it.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's a free enterprise company. If today, listen, James, if today me and you started a company, and
Yes.
we, as free Americans, said, you know what? It's better tax-wise, less regulations for us to do business in Russia. And we decided we're free to do whatever we want as long as we do it legally.
Okay.
You know?
Let's go to the IRS scandal.
Okay. I have a question for you.
Sure.
Let me start off. You heard about the plea that was delivered by Lois Lerner. And just to
No, you're getting ahead of me. You're taking away my thunder. Hold on.
Go ahead. You do the thunder. I have a question. I actually don't know the answer.
Two things struck me as coming out of this IRS scandal. Okay. A man named J. Russell George, a black man who was a Treasury Inspector General, went in front of Congress.
Yep.
And he gave a statement, but they posed 3 questions to him. I can't remember the third question. And it said, were conservative groups targeted by the IRS? And he only gave a one-word answer. Yes.
Okay.
And then the second question, I think, was something along the lines of, were conservative groups exclusively targeted by the IRS? He only gave a one-word answer. Yes. And the third question was something also that the Republicans wanted to hear. I forget what it was. And he had a one-word answer. He said yes. And they didn't even have to ask him the question. As he started to finish his statement, he said, you've asked me 3 questions, and I'm going to give you the answers. All right. Yesterday, this lady named Lois Lerner, who apparently is a lady who tried to temper the effort. She tried to stop the IRS a little bit from targeting conservative groups. And then she made the issue public. Wow. So here's a lady. She was the one really that kind of took it public. And apparently, from the records, most people agree, she said, you're not really doing the right thing here by focusing on these conservative groups. So yesterday, she goes in front of Congress and she gives a statement. She says, I didn't break any laws, I didn't do anything wrong, and she basically said, I'm pissed off. And then I love this. She said, and I'm not going to answer any of your questions, and I'm leaving. And she got up, she picked up her pocketbook, and she walked out of the United States Capitol building. Yeah. I thought that was pretty interesting, okay? So what do you think of the Tea Party conservative IRS scandal, Jake? I'm dying to hear this.
Okay. First of all, we touched on that a little bit before. And first of all, Republicans are not happy. Americans, liberals, Democrats, anybody should not be happy about this, no matter how it turns out. I mean, I was hoping that it would be something that maybe was a mistake, but it's not. We know it's not. We know that it happened. It was targeting. Doesn't matter if some groups turn out to be liberal with a name like Patriot in it. They were targeting specific groups with specific names, and it should concern any American. So am I, as a Republican, happy that they said yes? No, I wish it never happened, first of all. Okay? Second of all, I have a question for you. Now, this woman, I'm going to first give a little statement. I believe she was in charge at the time. So she cannot be a whistleblower because she was actually in charge at the time. Now, supposedly, if I'm not mistaken or with somebody else, now supposedly she was about to oversee the Obamacare from IRS standpoint. Now, so this woman who was in charge at the time, and now she's supposed to oversee the biggest monstrous program in the history of America, and she's coming out. And now I have a question for you. As an attorney, you know this better than I do. Can you enter a plea, make a statement, make a testifiable answer about your involvement, and then plead the fifth? Because pleading the fifth, that means you're not supposed to testify against yourself. She went ahead and gave a statement that says, I did not do it, I was not involved, I was not aware of anything, and now, as per my attorney, I plead the fifth. Can she do both in one?
Well, Jake, every single lawyer in America, even though I haven't polled them this morning, is thinking that very thought. In addition to, there was a lawyer on the panel, and he is screaming she can't do that. She waived her right to the Fifth Amendment when she gave a statement. And number two, she doesn't get to come in here and make a statement and leave. We get to cross-examine her on that statement. This is the craziest thing you'd ever heard, okay?
I agree. That's why I wanted to ask you. I was done.
So I think we're going to have to go to the law books and see, and this is my question if I were going to the law books. Can you waive the Fifth Amendment by making a statement, or do you only waive the Fifth Amendment by answering a question? I wonder. Okay.
I wonder too, because does that apply to the entire testimony, or it applies to on a question-to-question basis?
I don't know, but I will tell you this. I'll give you an example. A person can give a press conference the day before she goes in front of the House of Representatives and say all sorts of things. And then she can go in front of the House of Representatives and take the fifth. I don't think anybody disagrees with that, okay? So I don't know if she waives her Fifth Amendment by making a statement, whether it be out in the street or in front of the committee. I don't know. I think you only waive it when you answer a question.
Well, here's an interesting statement that Newt Gingrich made. He said that this is an interesting day in America. I'm just paraphrasing. When the government pleads the fifth. So that means all of us can go ahead and plead the fifth when we file our IRS tax return.
You know something? That has come up over the last 60 years.
Has it?
Yes, whether you can take the fifth concerning tax returns. And that has been shut down by the Supreme Court.
I mean, IRS is one of the most powerful agencies. And now they proved how powerful they can be when they don't even answer the questions that they're involved in.
I thought that was one of the funniest things I've seen all year when she pulled that stunt. That was
ridiculous. And here's something Obama said in 2010. I'm just going to read it because I saw it this morning.
Yeah.
And I remember that statement, but I saw it this morning, so it was kind of funny to me. Obama said in 2010, the only people who don't disclose the truth are the people with something to hide. Isn't it interesting that Obama himself said that, but yet he protected every single scandal personally?
I don't know. Well, I mean, all I know is on Morning Joe, I saw her testimony, and she was really irate. She was adamant. She was pissed off. And she gives this statement. She never gave them a chance to follow up. I thought that was pretty darn funny. You know what's funny?
Chickens come home to roost. You mentioned Morning Joe. This is really interesting. Through this whole IRS scandal and through the whole Associated Press and going after reporters scandals, Morning Joe and Piers Morgan, two people that I truly do not agree with almost on everything, actually on everything. They said that, you know what, through all these tyrannical scandals, that the Republicans and the Second Amendment right, people who believe in Second Amendment might have actually a lot of value to what they're saying. Piers Morgan agreed to that, and he was one of the biggest gun grabbers in the world.
Okay.
And I'm just bringing it up.
I agree with you. I see what you're saying. I believe, Jake, and you may not believe this, but only time will tell. I believe that so-called scandal is going to die, and I'm going to tell you why I think it's going to die. Okay, because I think a majority of the people in the United States could care less about the Tea Party. So I think
here's the problem. Here's the problem. if they're coming after, let's say, a priest, and I'm not a Christian, eventually I have a problem because they will come after me.
I read the famous poem. You know that famous poem.
I heard it, yes.
Yes, of course. That always happens.
If people don't care about Tea Party, let me ask you a question. Why wouldn't people care about the Tea Party? Because Tea Party does not take sides. Tea Party actually destroys Republican establishment as well, because Tea Party believes in three things. Tea Party believes in smaller government, lower taxes, personal responsibility. Now, if anybody wants to say that Tea Party did this or Tea Party said that, I mean, maybe somebody came to a rally and said something stupid. But so far, they have absolutely zero proof that somebody had a sign of anything hateful, racial, and they never once actually proved it. So why do people hate Tea Party when in reality Tea Party fights for all the Americans?
Well, of course, I totally 100% disagree with that. But anyway.
You disagree because you think Tea Party is a Republican-based party. Tea Party actually does not marry any party.
No, I think they're a racist party. That's why.
Okay, do you have any proof? Do you have one single proof? Seriously, I mean, no, James, they made statements on all kinds of, I mean, Al Sharpton is out there screaming Tea Party is a bunch of white racists. You know, I met Tea Party members who are black, Hispanic, Asian, Indian, I mean, you name it. And I mean, to be honest with you, Tea Party, not once they were able to show proof that the Tea Party is racist.
Well, Jake, on the next show. Oh, by the way, Jake, on the next show that we do, because I'm requiring you to come back.
Required. Yes, sir.
Yes, I am turning. I'm gonna have somebody come on the show with us. Okay.
Is he from the right or the left?
From the left, and this ought to be an interesting show. Okay.
Two of you gonna basically gang attack me?
No, I'm gonna stay out of it. I'm gonna let him do the talking. Okay.
All right. Is he Russian?
Well, yes, half Russian. Yes.
Yeah, half Russian. Okay. So he's half brilliant.
Yes. Right.
I'm just kidding.
No, that's okay. Now, let's keep up with the law. I know this is a little bit out of your ballywick, but what the hell? I'm going to ask you this question anyway.
Okay.
Florida always is in the news. Florida gets more than its share of the news. It's a strange thing. At any rate, in Vero Beach, Florida, which is a very conservative county, it's a law and order county. You do something wrong there, they want to electrocute you. I mean, it's really crazy up there. Okay. There's a girl who's a little bit over 18 years old, and she enters into a lesbian affair with a 14-year-old girl. Okay? And the 18-year-old sang in the choir. She mentored cheerleaders. She was a cheerleader. She taught gymnastics to younger children. And at any rate, she had a lesbian encounter with the 14-year-old in her bedroom and also in the bathroom at the school. And I guess they tootled around together. They have charged her with a couple of serious felonies, including lewd or lascivious battery upon a minor. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Now, and there is a statute, I suppose, and she is over 18, which is the age of majority in the United States of America. What do you think of that? Do you think that two consenting people, one of them is a minor, that two consenting people, one of them should face felony charges because she took the girl's clothes off?
Well, I mean, would that apply if they were straight? Would that apply? I mean, what's the difference if they're lesbian or gay or? I mean, that's probably a side note to all this argument. And I guarantee you that probably some gay groups might be protesting because they're lesbian. But in reality, let me ask you a question: if you, God forbid, your daughter is 14, and there's an 18-year-old boy, maybe they're consenting, but we do have laws, right? And the minor is really not a consenting adult because we don't know what the situation is. So I mean, to charge her with depends. I mean, I don't know what she was charged with completely because I don't know the law.
No. Lewd and lascivious battery, which means she touched her in inappropriate places and took her clothes off.
Okay, so I mean, so in this case, I mean, it's not consenting because the girl was 14. What if she was 10? I mean, I'm saying what if, and I know it's a statement that I should not bring up, but in reality, the other is not a consenting adult. So,
Okay, let me give you the other side of this.
okay.
The defenders of the 18-year-old, where have they turned to? Facebook. Okay.
Oh, of course.
Soon we're going to, literally in 50 years, we're going to try lawsuits on the internet, and we're going to let people from Facebook and Tumblr and Twitter we're going to have juries of 1 million people. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the way it'll be. The people on Facebook say that this is merely a tale of high school love, outdated laws, and anti-gay prejudice.
Of course. What if they were straight? Would it make a difference if they were straight? Would it make a difference if they were? I mean, anything. I mean, seriously, why do we bring in right away that they're gay?
Well, you're saying if an 18-year-old boy undresses a 14-year-old girl and touches her, not with his, not sexual intercourse, not.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
And
Well, I mean, see, my point here is, and I mean, I know it happens because listen, when I was 19, I'm sure I dated girls that were not 18 yet, and I mean, listen, at that time in the 80s, I didn't even think about it because I liked a girl, I took her out on a date. But here's the problem here that we have certain laws, and now they're bringing in that they're lesbian, and that's the problem. I mean, I couldn't care less. I mean, let them love each other, let them do whatever they want. My problem is, what if the other girl was 10?
Well, the law, I will tell you as a legal matter, this particular law only covers people between 12 and 16 years old.
Okay, so
now, if you had done it to a 10-year-old, oh my God, you'd be facing 20, 30 years in jail.
So is the 14-year-old more mature and more consenting than a 12-year-old? Because we have people who are underage, under 18. So I mean, I don't know if legally, I mean, it should be such a problem, but I mean, in a way, I mean, is the other person really consenting, or they're truly not aware of what they're doing fully? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to step into it and say something because I'm not.
I just have one question for you. Sigmund Freud, and I tend to agree with him, felt that an awful lot of what we do in life is controlled by sexual impulse. Okay,
and that he's not wrong. I mean, that's. I mean, take any male between age of 16 to 20, and you will see Sigmund Freud was absolutely right. I mean, I don't disagree with Sigmund Freud on that issue at all.
All right, we're going to go to the next. This isn't a scandal, but this is a hot topic.
You know what? I don't see it as a scandal. I see it as a legal issue, and I see it as a...
Yes. No, that's not a scandal. That's just a legal issue. Now I'm going to another legislative issue. As you know, there was a killer tornado in Oklahoma, all right? And I'm sure that you've seen the pictures. You know, they show pictures of hurricanes. Believe me, there's a huge difference between a tornado and a hurricane.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it.
Now, these people in Oklahoma were literally wiped out, off the face of the earth. Okay.
Terrible.
There are many, many people in Congress, including, you'll love this, one of the senators from Oklahoma, who, by the way, is not running for re-election, who says that they would only appropriate disaster relief if other areas of the federal budget are correspondingly cut. So I say to you, as a merciless, heartless, cold-hearted conservative, would you give them money?
Wait. You just painted me into a corner as this animal, as the beast.
Jake, it was a joke.
I know it was a joke, but people don't know that.
I was just kidding.
I know you're kidding.
I'm just kidding. Would you require budget cuts before you gave those poor people in Oklahoma federal relief?
Okay, first of all, of course they need a relief. Of course they do. We're a society of people who care. Of course, but here's the problem. Budget cuts and the sequester was such a sham. I mean, look, Obama threw huge parties right after he said that we cannot have tours. Tour costs about $18,000 a week, if not a month. and it's volunteers that do the tours in the White House. So he even said the people will feel the pressure. He said it himself, people will feel the pressure. Now, he almost prays for people to feel the pressure. So we're saying that we're not going to give a relief until we do not do budget cuts. Budget cuts can be done in other areas. Nobody's talking about relief. We have so many, as Obama called them in 2010 and 11, I believe, he called it unessential government agencies. Now, if they're unessential, why the hell do we need them? We need to curb our government in the areas where we don't need more government. And yes, we do need to give those people help. I agree.
All right, I'll take that as an answer. I got so many. Jake, you're so interesting. I got to ask you this question.
Okay, but I have a question for you because we haven't touched one scandal yet.
Oh, no, I'm on to a mini scandal.
Okay.
Today and yesterday, the Congress and the newspapers and everybody got into drone strikes, drones.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you the following question. In the United States, we have something called due process. You're entitled to know the charges against you. You're entitled to call witnesses in your favor. You're entitled to cross-examine people. And you're entitled to a fair and impartial trial. You with me?
Yes.
In 4 of the drone cases, we have killed American citizens, people who are or I don't know how they became citizens. Maybe they were naturalized or born here. I don't know. But they're American citizens, and 4 people admitted by the Obama administration have been killed by drones. So some people say, wait a minute. The administration is playing judge, jury, and executioner, and these people are not given a fair hearing. The administration, including, George Bush started the drones, and Mr. Obama ratcheted up to about 400%. And Mr. Bush and Mr. Obama said, wait a minute, we've got to look after national security, and we have to protect the American people. So my question to you, Jake, coming from the right, is it permissible if the president feels that it's a benefit to national security to kill an American citizen without due process of law?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, I completely disagree with whoever might have been. In fact, some Republicans, a lot of Republicans did not agree with Bush Big Brother program because you have basically somebody that they say was on the enemy list. You know that today you might be on the enemy list just because you agreed with me on something that I said?
Yes.
Okay, so now, I mean, I disagree whoever the president is. I mean, that has nothing to do with Republican, Democrat, but Obama administration could not answer one simple question. Do we just attack an American on American soil sometimes if we deem them to be damaging or enemy of the state? And Eric Holder could not give an answer for like a while until he said, do you mean, he was asking questions as opposed to saying, no, of course not. He's one of our biggest attorneys in America, and he can't even give a simple answer. No, we cannot attack an American without a due process.
Okay. Well, this morning, apparently, I think, Mr. Obama is going to give a speech on that and Guantanamo. Okay. By the way, would you close down Guantanamo?
No, I wouldn't. But Obama promised to close it, and he still hasn't. So another promise he just didn't deliver.
No. I think you have to be fair on that. I think Congress passed a piece of legislation which stopped him from closing down Guantanamo.
Well, because you can't close Guantanamo. I mean, you can't. Seriously, you can't.
All right,
he was going to bring them to New York to testify in New York. Are you kidding me? It would have been a circus.
Okay, but you admit that Congress did pass a law. Okay.
Whatever. I mean, I'm just saying Guantanamo. Okay. He was saying I'm going to close the Guantanamo.
Now I got another question because you are a free economy guy, and I'm really interested to hear your answer on this.
But I have a question about something else. But okay, if we have time.
But I want to hear what you got to say on this. In the last few days, and of course this has been going on for a few months, J.P. Morgan Chase has had a vote out to its shareholders whether it should split the job of chairman and president and that Mr. Diamond should no longer hold both offices. We've come to a position in the United States, in my humble opinion, I don't think you disagree with me, that upper management runs these companies and that shareholders really don't have a whole lot of say in what goes on in these corporations. Now, I want to give you an example. Say you own a plumbing supply company in New Brunswick, New Jersey. You're the owner of it, okay?
Okay.
And you have 10 employees, and you've designated some guy as the vice president, but you're the owner. And you walk in one day, and the guy says, no, we're not going to do it your way anymore. We're going to do it my way. I'm the vice president. You only own the stock. Do you think it's right that shareholders have really been given such a little voice, maybe no voice, in the running of these major corporations? Do you think shareholders should have a say in what goes on?
Well, it used to be the time that they used to be able to, and it seems like the company would try to drive the company according to shareholders because it wanted shareholders to invest the money.
Yes.
So, I mean, I agree with you. I'll take it a step further. What we have seen with the banking industry is a disgrace. I mean, we have companies like Merrill Lynch and Bank of America. We have companies like JP Morgan and Chase merging. And this is what we see in that market. We have basically a banking company that's protected by federal insurance on certain amount of money. And we have an investment risk company who were not supposed to be protected by anything because they run risk to invest money. And now we have both married into each other. So basically now you got JP Morgan, who's a high-risk stock company and investment company, marrying into the government protection. And I don't think it's right.
Okay.
All those mergers, they took the risk out of their formula. They're gambling and they have federal protection now.
All right, that may be.
I mean, I read about it, and I read about it a lot.
Well,
and,
I just think that corporations have run amok a little. I really do.
Okay, I mean, listen, corporations, I'm not defending corporations,
yes.
But corporations been attacked with a lot of regulations. So, I mean, it's been a disgrace to the free market, period.
Okay. Jake, we've come to the end of this hour. I know it's hard to believe, but time flies when I'm talking to you. Now, I want you to save your question, and hopefully next Tuesday we can do a show, and I am going to bring a mystery guest on the show from the left, okay?
So should I bring a guest as well?
You can bring anybody you want. You can bring 100 people into the studio. I don't care.
I know, I'm just kidding.
Yes, no, bring anybody you want. The more the merrier.
Seriously?
So, Jake, absolutely. You can bring anybody you want. Sure.
Okay.
Okay. I say to all of our listeners who are, listening to us on powertalk.com and i-netradio.com,
Can we mention the book?
From Miami, Florida, and from New Jersey. And we say goodbye to you, Paka, Paka. So long. We'll be back again with Jake. We won't let him get away that easily.
Let's mention the book real quick.
Oh, yes. You have a book, Tales and Tastes of Russia.
No, Tastes and Tales from Russia.
Tastes and Tales from Russia. I want you to go out and buy that book, Tastes and Tales from Russia. You'll learn a lot, Jake.
After Tastes and Tales from Russia.
After Tastes and Tales. After Tastes and Tales from Russia. Please go out and read that book. Jake's an interesting guy, and he's got a lot of interesting things in the book. After Tastes and Tales from Russia. Bye-bye, Jake. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
i-netradio.com. i-netradio.com.